The Asian market to me is this huge opportunity that's so near to Australia. And very often the discussions in many countries are of what is the opportunity in the European market or the American market. But in fact, if you think about the Asian market in general, and in fact, developing and emerging market, food markets in general, they're growing 5 to 7 times faster than the American or the European market or the Australian market, because they're in that phase of quantity growth of population, incomes going up, diversifying the product so that there's more expensive products being purchased. Altogether, that's increasing that pie very fast relative to other markets. So there's a massive growth opportunity to link into. And many times I speak a lot in the US or in Europe to agribusiness audiences. And people say, well, that's interesting that it's growing. But our image of it is that it's poor, it's mainly rural, it's mainly stagnant, not an interesting opportunity, even if it's growing. But in fact, the key thing is to understand that it's growing and changing and transforming very rapidly. So for example, probably the most important opportunity is that instead of a fragmented rural market, it's becoming an urbanized market. In fact, the urbanization has gone in the 1970s, 1980s in Asia from, let's say, 20% of the population to 45% of the population now, on average. But then if you look at the food market in what is urban share in the total food market in Asia, you find that it's 65 to 75%. That is that when you're selling to that market, you're basically selling to an urbanized market in which the middle class is already in aggregate bigger than the total population of Europe. Okay, so you're looking at a market that's just the richer part of it is already gigantic, and then the whole thing is growing quickly in urbanizing. Now, while it's urbanizing, there's another element that's changing. People think, let's say you're thinking about Chinese food habits, and you'd say there's a bowl of rice and a little bit of vegetables, and that's the traditional food habits of the Chinese. The problem is that the amount, to be honest, the amount that you can grow in South Australia or in New Zealand or whatever of this fruit satisfies the Asian market for a day or 3 days, let's say, 3 days, okay? And so you can't do it. You can't get enough. Even if it's just one chain, they're going to say, you gave us enough for 3 weeks, you're out. This I've heard many, many times. I've studied this fruit and vegetable thing a lot. And the producers say, we have a beautiful product. You liked us very much last year. They said, that's before we set up a distribution center and decided to deseasonalize. We need somebody that's a one-stop shop. We don't need 50 shops. We need one that's a one-stop shop. So you need to give us something all year. Do you have enough? They say, no, we do a beautiful thing for 2 weeks for your supply. We can do that. We don't want that. It was the answer to them.